What hobby would you like to give a try but don't because of the expense? Flying without a doubt. Would want to get a pilot's license. You should at least take a discovery flight. They are usually only $100 or so. It's a lot like a drug dealer giving you your first taste for free. I did it once. 2,000 hours of flying later I finally gave up the habit. I treated myself to a discovery flight for my birthday around 5 years ago. I really enjoyed it, but I was never able to budget for a PPL. Later I learned that I'll never qualify anyway because of a medical condition, so oh well. Now I just fly on commercial planes using miles for my birthday every year. My job usually has me flying 30 to 50,000 miles a year, so I always have enough for a free flight. Do you mind sharing the condition? Curious because I was ineligible for the Air Force due to ear issues, but I haven't heard of a private license having the same restrictions. Bipolar. I could see how that would mess with the compass instrumentation. 3D printing. If I get a cheap printer, I know I'll just end up jonesing for a more expensive printer, and pretty soon I'll be convincing my wife to let me buy $50,000 worth of plastic so I can print a new shed to house my collection of printers. Edit. Please stop suggesting cheap printers. I told you how this would end. Edit. For those asking, the movie is not currently in development. Keep an eye on Rome Sweet Rome or Proofrock 451 for any updates. Yep, this is my exact issue as well, except I am the wife and no one shall stand between me and my printer shed. Just leave your spouse, then sabotage the marriage of Proofrock 451 and steal him away. Problem solved. I'm sitting over here eating a peach with my trousers rolled, ready to go. Hey girl, let's be ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. Sir, you have a wife. Stop trying to scuttle with strange internet women. They caught me scuttling. Sailing looks fun. Unemployment. I'd like to do a lot more craft work, like woodworking. I do metallurgy already, and the tools are expensive enough. Adding woodworking or leatherworking would just be too much. Maybe check in your area to see if there is a makerspace around. Holy cow, I didn't even know makerspaces were a thing. I've always wanted to try woodworking and crafting but live in an apartment. This is a game changer, thank you. Traveling. Farming. Not on a massive commercial level, just a couple acre field, but even that requires several $1,000s worth of equipment to properly manage. Warhammer 40k. I have a friend of mine who is single, in his 50s, no kids, and has a house with 2 rooms filled with 40k stuff. He also has a room dedicated to just painting. His figures, to my untrained eye, look amazing. He admits that 40k is a lifestyle. I accept it, but I don't completely understand it. Single, in his 50s, no kids, 2 rooms filled with 40k stuff. Real chicken and egg situation here. The egg came first. I bet the chicken wasn't too happy. RC attack helicopter models. I don't mean the little ones, but the 1.52 meters in length ones. You want warbirds? So much more fun. My brother and I fly quarter scale warbirds and dogfight a lot. P-51 versus Spitfire is quite fun. But gets pretty expensive because you will at least a few times drive it into the ground. That's exactly the point, haha. The hobby seems really fun, building, maintaining them and flying them, but if it goes pear-shaped just once, I think it will cost in the thousands. It'll only cost thousands if you want to do it again. If we were talking only dollars. The 100s of hours of work into most of them totally dwarf the monetary investment. Glassblowing. I did this for a while. Classes were basically $25 HR, which was definitely not cheap, but it was doable. Of course, after you finish taking classes, it stays expensive. Know the best thing about taking glassblowing classes? Nobody knows what shitty glassblowing looks like. You'll bring your first paperweight or pumpkin home and everybody will be like, wow, it's amazing. Restoring a classic muscle car. I'd just love to learn mechanics, but I learn through doing and can't afford a second car to play with and can't afford to play around with my own car. Motorbike smile. Nail meat hammer. This is exactly what you should do if you want to try a motorcycle project. Honda CBS are a good choice since parts are easy, but old Triumphs are probably more rewarding. Falconry. I asked a fellow on here a few years back what went into becoming a falconer, and he said it's a lengthy process that involves building an enormous enclosure for them to live in. I don't even own a house, let alone a yard big enough for that type of enclosure, so that ain't happening anytime soon. Not even the expense, but also the sheer amount of time involved. That's one of those everyday, often many hours a day things. Mountaineering. Not just your casual hike, but crossing glaciers, climbing with rope and reaching summits. Expect a big investment in gear. You'll want certificates, so you'll have to pay for several 2-week all-in trips, and many mountains can be summited seasonally, so you'll need to take 2 weeks off at random times of your job, besides finding the time to train several days a week for a few months before departure. I guess I'll keep the $50K for something useful instead. Now send it. #full send bro. Scuba diving. If I can't scuba, then what's all this been about? What am I working towards? BOBODDY. I want to take up a new instrument. You can get a cheap instrument to learn on. I told my sister I always wanted to learn violin. I was in my early 30s at the time. Next thing I know, she's buying 2 violins on eBay, because she's going to learn, too, and my other sister is arranging us lessons from a high school teen who works part-time at her company, who happens to play violin and is looking to make extra money. She didn't charge us a lot, certainly not what we would have paid to a music teacher. Next thing you know, we're playing the violin. Not well, we were never going to play concerts, but we still learned and could play several tunes. It's never too late to learn something. Astrophotography, both time-intensive and expensive. Do you enjoy the night sky? A pair of binoculars and a reclining lawn chair is a great start. You can practice finding messier objects, a good skill, or lie back and watch the sky after dark. Things are always happening. Early in an evening you can count satellites, then as they stop reflecting the sun you can watch for meteors. I started taking photos of the night sky with just a DSLR plus kit lens and a tripod. All used. My first telescope was also used, and in perfect condition, as most scopes rarely get used. I want to encourage you, astrophotography is awesome and spending time looking up is rewarding. Drag racing, or racing in general. I'm a huge gearhead, but there's no way I can afford even a basic crate motor, let alone the fabrication equipment to stuff it into something. Bracket racing. You dial in, make an educated guess how fast you'll be, and so does the other person. There's a delay on when you go, based on the difference in your dial in. So in theory, if you both hit your time, you'll cross the finish line at the same time. You could have a smart car win against a top fuel car. You're racing on your skill as a driver, not just on who has the fastest car. Sure, you need to pay entry fees, but that's much cheaper than building, even a pro mod car. My local strip has street legal Fridays like this. $30 to race, and even if you lose first round, you can still make passes for fun all night long. I raced my '97 Ford Ranger for shits and giggles as a teen on a test and tune night. Even staged a one will burn out before every pass. My best time was a 19.714 mile. This is eerily similar to a friend of mine who raced his Ford Ranger at Atlanta drag strip. It was slow, but he had fun. He wanted me to race him in my RX-7, but I'm not going to pay money to drive in a straight line when I only make 150 horsepower. PFFT. 150. My 80 Rala makes 67 horsepower on a good day. Dialing in at 17.9 thanks to 2,000 pounds. I'd love to have a big aquarium with exotic interesting fish, but the tanks are expensive, the fish are expensive, the upkeep is expensive. Also, extremely time consuming, and fish are so fragile. Anything can and will kill them, or sometimes they'll just kill themselves. And don't get me started about saltwater aquariums. Edit. Thank you all for the wonderful advice. I will take it when the time comes, as I do love fish. Unfortunately, I couldn't take all the advice right now, even if I wanted to. I live in a basement with my cat, and she is a mouse herbivory prey driven. The demon in question keeps sharing though, I love it. I'm deep into the aquarium hobby. Yes, it's expensive to go with a monster tank, but you can do a lot with a small tank. My 10-gallon is probably my favorite tank right now. It's rewarding to maintain an ecosystem. I'm currently on my 3rd generation of fish and shrimp, which is the pinnacle for me to have my environment stable enough for wild breeding. #X200B, yeah, you can get lost in it. But, look into nano tanks because you can get some cool exotic fauna for those as well. My brother just got a 29-gallon tank for Christmas. We're trying to find ways we can keep it in his budget but also look cool. Can I have some tips for what to do? Replanty Tank is a great place to look around for live plant ideas and aquascaping ideas. Raquaswap is a great place to get cheap plants, filters, and all types of aquarium stuff. I've gotten most of the plants for this tank Imgur.com from Raquaswap for less than $20 shipped. The big things I would think about is 1. Filter and 2. Substrate, gravel, sand, plant beneficial or inert. The tank above is a split of inert sand and shrimp and plant beneficial pellets. Hardscape stuff like driftwood and rock is something that will come after the two important decisions are made. I think the real fun part about keeping aquariums is getting inspired by others. Replanty Tank and Raquascape has been great inspiration for me as well as a wealth of information. Look around and get inspired and feel free to PM me anytime with questions.